guys, welcome back. So today I figured I would continue on with an inadvertent series that I started here on my channel of showing you guys my collection of makeup categories. So I recently uploaded my eyeshadow palette collection and you guys loved that video, so I figured I would do another part of my collection. So today we're going to talk all about my face palette collection. I have way too many, but I love face palettes. They're one of my weaknesses, so I have quite a few. I'm gonna do it a little bit differently. I'm just gonna pan you guys into the drawer and show them off, rather than how I did my eyeshadow palette collection where I had them all in front of me and I picked them up and showed them. I'm just gonna show you down there, if that's alright with y'all. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so as you can see, this is my face palette drawer. I also happen to have my eyeliners and liquid eyeshadows, as well as a few just random single eyeshadows in here, just kind of to put them somewhere. But we're just talking about face palettes today, obviously, as I already mentioned. So in case you're curious, this is just a basic acrylic container from Amazon. I will link them down below because they are fantastic, super cheap, and actually pretty great quality. So I will link those down below, as well as anything that I can find links for in here. Some of this stuff is or was limited edition and is no longer available, but I'll link anything I can. So starting with some of the smaller palettes here, I've got a couple from the drugstore. So this is the CoverGirl Peach Punch face palette. This one has a bronzer, a blush, and a highlighter, and I love this palette. Honestly, I love all of these palettes, so I'm probably going to say that a lot, but the bronzer is a super great tone for pale skin, as well as the blush. The highlighter is super pretty. It definitely has a interesting peachy shift to it, which you don't normally see, so I kind of like it just for that fact that it's kind of abnormal for a highlighter. So really love this one. Plus it smells like peaches, which is just fantastic. And then the other one is from Revlon. I actually don't know why I kept this, because I really hated this collection. If y'all saw my video reviewing this collection, it was not a nice video. These just made no sense to me. I really like this highlighter, but that's pretty much it. And it's also very sheer, so you really have to build it up. Again, it has that soft pink shift to it, so you can barely even see it. This palette was honestly not great. I really should get rid of it. I just haven't gone through and decluttered this section yet. Honestly, this is probably the only thing I would declutter anyways, so I'll probably go ahead and move it out of here, but wanted to mention it. This is their Sunset on Pluto Cheek Draping Palette, in case you were curious. A few more from the drugstore. So I've got my Wet n Wild contouring palette. This is a great bronzer. I don't necessarily use this shade too much because it doesn't do much for my skin tone. But the bronzer itself is really great. It's not too warm, not too cool tone, and it's just kind of is a great contouring palette for pale skin. This is the CoverGirl True Blend Super Stunner palette. This is one of my favorite palettes that I have, mostly because it's a total dupe for one of my all-time favorite highlighting palettes. These powders are super interesting to me because they're such a thick powder. It's very interesting. I swatched the first one right there for you. I mean, the powders are beautiful, but when you swatch it, it has a thick feeling to it, which is very odd. They're definitely very powdery, and your brush tends to pick up quite a bit, but I mean, there's no denying that these shades are gorgeous. This highlighting palette is semi-new to my collection. This is the one from Joa Beauty. It's their Be My Everything highlighter palette. I just recently reviewed the whole Joa Beauty line on my channel, but I really, really enjoyed this palette. This is actually the only palette that I kept in my collection because these highlighters are just phenomenal for the price. I think this was like $13, and they make your skin look so like wet and glistening. It's insane. So these are definitely one of my new like favorites from or in my collection. It's so beautiful. The packaging is honestly awful. It feels like Claire's makeup. It's just cardboard, but the powder itself is totally worth looking past that. The next drugstore palette is from Flower Beauty. This is another highlighting palette. Can you tell I have a preference? These, oh my god, these are so beautiful. I actually just used it today for the first time in quite a bit, but it's so beautiful. It did come with a brush, but I threw it out because it was not a good brush. But these are, again, like one of those thick powders that just gives such a beautiful, intense, wet look to your skin that it's phenomenal. And actually all three of these shades work for my skin tone, even being as fair as I am, which is crazy. That rarely happens, but all of them look beautiful. I actually used this gold today and it's so pretty. Next up, we've got this little duo from Pacifica. This one came in, I think, like an Ipsy bag or something, so it's two blushes. One's a little more like pinky and one's a little more dusty, peachy, natural, and they're both gorgeous. I don't use this one nearly enough. The powders are quite dry, which is definitely different, and they're very sheer, so you kind of have to build it up quite a lot, so I don't think you can even see that swatch there, but I really love this one. It's like on the cheek. It's a very natural palette, and what I thought was so cool about this one is the back of it is actually a mirror. So it doesn't have a mirror on the front, but it does have one on the back, which I've never actually seen before, which is pretty cool. And the last drugstore palette I have is a Z palette with two of the Physicians Formula Butter highlighters in it. These are such a weird, different formula. They're actually cracking because I keep this like this. I need to store it on its back because they are starting to like crack and fall out. But these are such a weird cream formula, but they're so gorgeous. It's ridiculous. So there's a swatch of that one right there. As you can see, it is like shiny. It's almost got like an oily texture, but oh, it's so pretty. These are great for summertime because they just give such a wet, dewy look to the skin. And then everything left are high end. So we'll go ahead and dig into those. This one right here from Pure, I literally don't use it nearly enough. It's their Bronze and Brighten palette. These are, again, one of those like super weird, thick powders. I don't love the bronzer in here. It's a lot of shimmer and glow. If I can stay in frame here. But it's a really interesting, more like a bronze topper in my opinion, but super pretty. I shifted my light down some, so hopefully that makes it a little bit easier to see. But yeah, the bronzer is definitely more like a bronze topper in my opinion, but the blush and highlight in here are gorgeous, as all of them are, but like I said, it is one of those like thick powder formulas, so it's a little weird and you have to be very careful about what you pick up because you tap a brush into here and it's just like so much pigment, it's insane. Moving on, I've got the Smashbox Spotlight palette. This is the palette that the CoverGirl palette duped. They are almost exactly the same. Actually, I would say they are exactly the same. If you want to see a side-by-side comparison, I posted one on my Instagram, which I will link down below. This was one of my first like high-end highlighting purchases and I fell in love with it. But as you can see, the CoverGirl one is pretty much an exact dupe, which is crazy, but I I think it's pretty cool because even if you can't afford the Smashbox one, you can definitely get the same quality and shades from CoverGirl. Next up, we've got this palette from PYT Beauty, which I just recently reviewed on my channel. It's really not so much a face palette, it's more eyeshadow than face, but I went ahead and put it in here. I really needed to declutter this because I really was not much of a fan of it, but I'll probably end up moving it out now because I really don't know why I kept a hold of this, but it's really sad because I did really enjoy the quality of these eyeshadows. It was just the three mattes, or these two mattes just showed up very similar on the eye, and then this brown was very patchy in my opinion, so I can't wait to see what else they come out with, but this one in its own was just a fail for me. Next up, we've got my Hourglass palettes, which are probably my favorite palettes in my entire collection. Some of my favorite items in general in my entire collection. So I've got the Metallic Strobe Lighting palette, which was limited edition last year, and these are still some of my favorite highlighters. It sucks that you can't get them anymore because I want to rave about them constantly, but I can't because I can't link them for you guys, and it sucks, but I will never get rid of this palette. It's too beautiful and like natural, but also intense. It's so hard to explain, but love these powders. And then I have two of the Ambient Lighting Edit palettes. So this one right here is last year's Edit 3. Yeah. And then this is this year's, which is the Edit 4. So there you can see the difference between the two palettes. If you want, I also posted a comparison of these two on my Instagram. They are very similar, but I couldn't say no to the new one, especially with this metallic pink packaging. It was too pretty. I had to have it. Next up, we have the Tarte Blush Bazaar blush palette that was for holidays last year. I love this palette. Look at it. Look at it in all of its glory. These are, they say 10 blushes, but really it's 9 blushes and a highlighter. This is still one of my favorite palettes. I don't reach for it quite as much anymore because I can't talk about any of these blushes, but the formula in general in here is just so beautiful and amazing and so worth the price that I highly recommend Tarte's blushes. They're great and they really do last all day long. And then last but not least, we have the Tarte Pro Glow palette, which I have not reached for pretty much since I got it, which is really sad. But it is a really, really beautiful palette, and I know they just announced, and I think released, a blush version of this, which I am definitely planning on picking up because it looks gorgeous. But yeah, that's what this one looks like. So you've got the contour here, you've got a cream bronzer, and then 4 highlighters, and all of these formulas are fantastic, in case you were curious. Plus, I love the packaging. It's something very different in my collection, which I'm always looking for. Alright, so there you have it. There are all of my face palettes in my collection. I hope you guys liked today's video. I will go ahead and link my eyeshadow palette collection down below in case you're curious. And stay tuned for the rest of my collection. I'll probably end up doing maybe foundations and concealers next. That sounds like a good idea. So, other than that, I hope you guys will hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!